Jake Sullivan wiped the sweat from his forehead as he worked on the mining laser controls. The asteroid belt around Jupiter was hot work, even inside his small ship. He had been out here for 3 weeks, collecting rare metals while his crew returned to the moon base for supplies. The silence of space didn't bother him anymore. After 5 years of mining work, he found it peaceful. His coffee had gone cold hours ago, but Jake kept sipping it anyway. The Pioneer's hope wasn't much to look at, but she was reliable. Her hull was scratched and dented from years of asteroid impacts, but her engines ran smooth and her life support never failed. Jake trusted this ship more than he trusted most people. The warning alarm made him jump. Jake looked at his screens and frowned. Something big was coming toward him, moving fast. Too fast to be another mining ship. Too big to be a transport. Jake had never seen anything like it on his scanners. The ship that appeared before him was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. It was 3 times the size of his mining vessel, with smooth silver walls that seemed to glow with their own light. Strange symbols moved across its surface like living tattoos. No human had ever built anything like this. Jake's hand shook as he reached for his radio. "This is mining vessel Pioneer's Hope to unknown craft. Please identify yourself. You are in United Earth territory." The response came not through his radio, but directly into his mind. The voice was soft and musical, but it made his head hurt. "Greetings, small vessel. We are explorers from the Galactic Research Council. We come in peace to study your kind." Jake had read about first contact procedures and training, but they never mentioned aliens talking directly into your brain. His hand moved to the emergency beacon switch. Earth needed to know about this right away. "Please don't be afraid," the voice continued. "We only wish to learn about your species. Will you come aboard our ship?" Jake looked out at the massive, alien vessel. Every instinct told him to run. He was just a mining engineer from Colorado. He fixed machines and hauled rocks. He wasn't qualified for first contact with aliens. "I need to contact my people first," Jake said aloud, hoping they could hear him. "This is too big for me to handle alone." "We understand your caution," the voice replied. "But we have traveled far to meet your kind. Surely you can spare a few minutes to talk?" Jake's finger hovered over the emergency beacon. If he pressed it, every human ship and station in the system would know about the aliens within minutes. Earth's military would come running. But what if these aliens really were peaceful? What if he started a war by calling for help? The decision was made for him when his ship's computer detected the alien vessel's scanning beams. The Pioneer's Hope had been designed for work in dangerous areas. Her automatic defense systems didn't wait for human approval when they detected a potential threat. Warning lights flashed red across Jake's control panel. "Defense systems activated," the computer announced. "Unknown vessel is conducting hostile scan, deploying countermeasures." "No, wait!" Jake shouted, but it was too late. Small missiles launched from his ship's hull, designed to destroy incoming threats. They weren't meant to hurt anyone, just to disable enemy sensors and weapons. The alien ship's response was immediate. Bright blue beams shot out and destroyed Jake's missiles before they could reach their target, but the damage was done. To the aliens, Jake had just attacked them without warning. Hostile action detected. The voice in his head was no longer soft and musical. It was cold and mechanical. "Prepare to be boarded for questioning." Jake slammed, his fist on the emergency beacon. A powerful signal burst out from his ship, carrying news of the alien contact to every human receiver in the solar system. At the same time, he grabbed the controls and fired his main engines. The Pioneer's Hope wasn't built for speed, but Jake pushed her as hard as she would go. "I'm trying to help you understand," Jake said as his ship accelerated. "My computer acted on its own. I didn't want to fight, but the aliens weren't listening anymore." Their ship moved with impossible grace, staying right behind him no matter how he twisted and turned. Jake had spent years dodging asteroids and debris, but he couldn't shake his pursuer. The alien ship fired something that looked like silver rope. It wrapped around the Pioneer's Hope and began pulling her back. Jake pushed his engines to full power, but it was useless. The mining ship groaned and shook as the alien technology dragged her toward the larger vessel. "Please listen to me," Jake said. "I don't want to fight, I just want to go home. You fired weapons at a peaceful research vessel. the voice replied. You sent military signals to your fleet. You attempted to flee when asked simple questions. These are not the actions of a peaceful being. Jake's heart sank as he realized how his actions looked to the aliens. From their point of view, he had attacked first and then called for backup. They probably thought he was some kind of soldier or spy. The Pioneer's hope was pulled into a docking bay inside the alien ship. Jake watched helplessly as metal arms reached out to secure his vessel. Strange gas began filling the docking bay, probably to make sure he couldn't breathe their air without protection. Jake put on his emergency suit and checked his air supply. He had maybe 6 hours of oxygen left. Through his small window, he could see alien figures moving around his ship. They were tall and thin, with too many arms and skin that changed color like a mood ring. The airlock on his ship opened without his permission. Somehow the aliens had taken control of his systems. 3 of them floated into his cabin, moving, without gravity like they were swimming through air. The leader spoke, and this time Jake could hear the words with his ears instead of his mind. Human creature, you are under arrest for acts of aggression against peaceful explorers. You will be questioned about your species' military capabilities and intentions. Jake raised his hand slowly, trying to show he wasn't dangerous. My name is Jake Sullivan. I'm just a mining engineer. I don't know anything about military stuff. All humans are soldiers, the alien replied. This is what our scans have revealed. You will tell us about your world's weapons and battle plans, as they led him away from his ship. Jake wondered how everything had gone so wrong so quickly. He had always imagined first contact would be like in the movies, with diplomats and scientists and careful translation. Instead, he was a prisoner on an alien ship, accused of being something he wasn't. The last thing Jake saw before they took him away was his coffee mug floating in zero gravity, still half full of cold coffee. Somehow, it seemed like the most human thing in the universe. The cell was white and empty except for a chair that seemed to grow from the floor. Jake sat on it and tried not to think about how far he was from home. The walls glowed with soft light that never changed, making it impossible to tell if it was day or night. Not that day and night meant anything in space. Jake had been here for what felt like hours when the door opened without a sound. 3 aliens entered, each one different from the others. The first was tall and thin like a walking stick with skin that rippled like water. The second looked like a giant insect with too many eyes. The third was made of what looked like living crystal, changing colors as it moved. I am Captain Lisa Morgan, the tall one said. Jake blinked in surprise. The name sounded human, but the voice was clearly alien. Do not be confused by my name. I learned your language from your data networks. I chose a name your mind could understand. You've been watching us, Jake said. It wasn't a question. We have been studying your species for some time, the insect creature spoke. Its voice sounded like breaking glass. I am Kethra of the hive mind. What we have learned disturbs us greatly. The crystal being stepped forward. I am Velnash, military advisor to this mission. We need to understand why your people are so dangerous. Jake almost laughed. Dangerous? I'm a mining engineer. I fix machines and collect rocks. I've never hurt anyone in my life. Your species has fought over 4,000 wars in the last century, Kethra said. Your planet is covered with weapons that can destroy entire cities. Your children are taught to fight from birth. How do you explain this? Jake rubbed his face with his hands. It's not that simple. Yes, humans have fought wars, but we've also built cities, created art, explored space. Most of us just want to live in peace. Peace? Velnash's crystal body flashed angry red. Your people have weapons in space. Your mining ship carried missiles. You attacked us the moment we tried to communicate. Those weren't real weapons, Jake said. They were just defense systems, and I didn't attack you. My computer did that automatically. Your machines make war without you telling them to? Captain Morgan asked. This is even worse than we thought. Jake realized he was making things sound worse with every word. Look, it's not like that. The computer was just protecting me. It's programmed to stop anything that might hurt the ship. So, you build machines that kill without orders, Kethra said. Your species creates weapons that think for themselves. No, you don't understand, Jake said, but he could see they weren't listening. Everything he said seemed to make them more afraid of humans. Dr. Nina Walsh watched from a hidden room next to the interrogation chamber. She had been studying with the aliens for 6 months as part of a secret exchange program. The aliens didn't know she was human. They thought she was from a peaceful species called the Terrans who looked almost exactly like humans. Nina wanted to help Jake, but she couldn't reveal herself without destroying the exchange program. She listened as the questioning continued and felt sick at how wrong everything was going. "Tell us about your military training," Velnash demanded. "I don't have military training," Jake said. "I went to college to study engineering." "What kind of engineering?" Captain Morgan asked. "Mining engineering. I learned how to find metals in asteroids and extract them safely." "You learned to use explosives," Kethra said. "You learned to destroy rock formations and reshape landscapes. These are military skills." Jake stared at them. "It's mining, not warfare. I use small charges to break up asteroids so I can collect the metals inside. It's like farming, but in space." "Farming?" Velnash asked. "Growing food. You know, plants and crops." The 3 aliens exchanged looks. "Your species grows its own food?" Captain Morgan asked. "Of course we do. How else would we eat?" "Most civilized species have moved beyond agriculture," Kethra explained. "We create food from basic elements. Growing plants is a primitive practice that requires controlling and reshaping environments." Nina put her head in her hands. The aliens saw farming as a form of environmental warfare. They thought humans were aggressive because they grew their own food instead of making it in laboratories. "Tell us about human physical capabilities," Captain Morgan said. Jake shrugged. "We're pretty average, I guess. We can lift things, run, swim. We're not as strong as some animals, but we're good at using tools." "How much can you lift?" Velnash asked. "Depends on the person. I can lift maybe 200 pounds on Earth. Less in my spacesuit." The aliens spoke to each other in their own language, their voices filled with what sounded like fear. "What's wrong?" Jake asked. 200 pounds is more than most of our species can lift," Captain Morgan said. "And you consider this average?" "Some. Humans are stronger," Jake said. "Athletes, construction workers, soldiers, they can lift much more." "How much more?" Kethra demanded. "World record is over 1,000 pounds, I think. But that's just weightlifting. In real life, people have lifted cars off trapped victims. Adrenaline makes you stronger when you need to save someone." The room went silent. Nina could see the terror in the aliens' faces through her hidden cameras. "Your people become stronger when they are threatened?" Velnash asked. "Sure. It's a natural response. Fight or flight, you know? When someone you care about is in danger, you find strength you didn't know you had. You transform into more dangerous versions of yourselves," Captain Morgan said slowly. "No, it's not transformation. It's just humans are protective. We take care of our families, our friends. If someone threatens them, we fight back." Jake was getting frustrated. Every normal human trait seemed to terrify these aliens. He tried a different approach. "Look, most humans are peaceful. We have jobs, families, hobbies. I like to fish when I'm not working. I read books. I watch movies with my girlfriend. I'm not a monster." "What kind of books do you read?" Kethra asked. "Science. Fiction, mostly. Stories about exploring space and meeting aliens." Jake almost smiled. "I always hoped First Contact would go better than this." "Stories about conquest and domination of other species," Velnash said. "No, stories about cooperation and friendship," Jake protested. "Most of them are about working together to solve problems." But he could see it was hopeless. The aliens had already decided what humans were, and nothing he said would change their minds. They saw monsters where he saw ordinary people just trying to live their lives. In her hidden room, Nina made a decision. She couldn't let this continue. Somehow, she had to help Jake make the aliens understand what humans really were. Even if it meant revealing her true identity and ending the exchange program. The fate of 2 species might depend on it. Jake woke up to the sound of whispers outside his cell. He had been trying to sleep on the hard floor when he heard voices speaking in English. Real English, not the strange translated speech of his alien captors. "Are you sure he's human?" "Oh," woman's voice asked. "Look at him," another voice replied, this one belonging to a man. "Same as us. 2 arms, 2 legs, ugly as sin." Jake sat up quickly. Through the transparent wall of his cell, he could see 2 people in maintenance uniforms. They looked completely human. "Who are you?" Jake asked quietly. The woman jumped in surprise. She was young, maybe 30, with short brown hair and tired eyes. "Oh no, he's awake. Carl, what do we do?" The man, Carl, was older and heavier, with gray hair and worker's hands. "We help him, Nina. That's what we came here to do." "You're human," Jake said. It wasn't a question. "Dr. Nina Walsh," the woman said. "I'm a scientist. I've been studying here for 6 months as part of an exchange program. The aliens think I'm from a species called Terrans. And I'm Carl Peters," the man added. "Ship maintenance, been here a year. They think I'm some kind of peaceful worker drone." Jake pressed his hands against the wall. "There are more of us?" "Just us 3 now," Nina said. "But Jake, we have a big problem. I've been listening to the alien communications. They're sending a message to something called the Hegemony Fleet." "What's that?" Jake asked. "Think of it as the galaxy's police force," Nina explained. "They handle dangerous species, and thanks to your interrogation, they think humans are the most dangerous species they've ever encountered." Carl looked around nervously. "The fleet will be here in 3 days. They're planning to surround Earth and contain the threat." Jake felt cold. "Contain how?" "Orbital bombardment," Nina whispered. "They're going to make Earth uninhabitable, to prevent humans from spreading into space." The 3 humans stood in silence for a moment. Jake couldn't believe what he was hearing. His home, his family, everyone he had ever known was going to die because of a misunderstanding. "We have to stop them," Jake said. "How?" Carl asked. "We're 3 people on a ship full of aliens who think we're monsters." Nina pulled out a small device that looked like a metal wand. "I've been working on this for weeks. It can override the ship's security systems. I can get you out of that cell." "Then what?" Jake asked. "Then we steal a ship and get back to Earth," Carl said. "Warn them what's coming." "That won't be enough," Nina said. "Even if Earth prepares for war, they can't fight the entire galaxy. We need to make the aliens understand that humans aren't what they think we are." Jake thought about the interrogation. Every answer he had given made things worse. "They've already made up their minds. Nothing I say will change that." "Maybe words won't work," Nina said. "But actions might." She activated her device, and the cell wall shimmered and disappeared. Jake stepped out carefully, expecting alarms to sound, but nothing happened. "How did you do that?" he asked. "I've been studying their technology for months," Nina said. "And Carl here knows this ship better than some of the crew members." Carl grinned. "Amazing what people don't notice about the guy who fixes their toilets. They move through the ship's corridors like ghosts." Nina had learned the patrol schedules, and Carl knew every maintenance tunnel and service shaft. Jake was amazed at how well they worked together. "There," Nina pointed to a small shuttle bay. "That ship can make it back to Earth." "Can you fly it?" Jake asked. "I'm a quick learner," Carl said. "Been watching the pilots for months." They entered the shuttle bay, but Jake stopped when he saw the alien craft. It was beautiful, all smooth curves and glowing panels. But it was also completely foreign. "This is insane," he said. "We don't know how to operate alien technology." "We know more than you think," Nina said. She began pressing symbols on a control panel. "I've been studying their computer systems. The interface is actually quite logical." Carl was already in the pilot's seat, his hands moving over controls like he had been flying alien ships his whole life. "Engineering is engineering," he said. "Doesn't matter if it's human or alien. Things that move need power, direction, and control." The shuttle began to hum with power. Jake felt a strange vibration in his bones as the alien engines came to life. "This is really happening," he said. "Jake," Nina said, turning to face him. Before we leave, I need to record something. A message that explains what humans really are. They won't listen. Maybe not to the aliens on this ship, but there are others in the galaxy. Some of them might be willing to listen to reason. Jake sat down in front of a recording device Nina had taken from the ship's communication system. He thought about his home, his family, his species. How could he explain humanity in a way that aliens would understand? "My name is Jake Sullivan," he began. "I'm from a planet called Earth. The aliens who captured me think humans are monsters, but they're wrong. We're not perfect. We've made mistakes, fought wars, hurt each other. But we've also created beautiful things. We write music and poetry. We build homes for our families. We explore space not to conquer, but to learn." He paused, trying to find the right words. "Humans are protective. When someone threatens our loved ones, we fight back. But we also sacrifice ourselves to save strangers. We risk our lives for people we've never met. We're not monsters. We're just people trying to do our best in a difficult universe." Nina stopped the recording. "That's perfect." Alarms began sounding throughout the ship. Lights flashed red, and alien voices filled the air. "They know we're gone," Carl said. "Time to leave." The shuttle bay doors opened, revealing the star-filled darkness of space. Carl's hands moved over the controls with surprising confidence, and the small ship shot out into the void. Behind them, the alien research vessel was already turning to follow. But Jake wasn't looking back. He was looking ahead, toward home, toward Earth, toward the family and friends who didn't even know they were in danger. "How long to get back?" he asked. 2 days if we push the engines," Carl said. "Assuming this thing doesn't fall apart." "It won't," Nina said with more confidence than she felt. "Alien technology is very reliable." Jake settled back in his seat and watched the stars. 2 days to save his world. 2 days to prove that humans were worth saving. It didn't seem like enough time, but it was all they had. The small shuttle raced through space, carrying 3 humans and the hope that understanding could triumph over fear. The stolen alien shuttle raced through space at speeds that made Jake's stomach hurt. Through the window, stars streaked past like white lines. Carl had his hands glued to the controls, sweat dripping down his face as he pushed the ship harder than it was meant to go. "How much longer?" Jake asked for the 10th time in an hour. 18 hours if the engines don't explode," Carl replied. "Maybe 20 if they do and we have to fix them." Nina was hunched over a communication panel trying to boost their signal. "Strength." "I'm sending your message ahead of us," she told Jake. "If anyone in the solar system is listening, they'll know what's coming." Behind them, the alien research ship Stellar Dawn was following at a distance. Captain Lisa Morgan had ordered her crew not to shoot down the escaping humans, but to track them instead. She wanted to see where they would go and what they would do. "Captain," her science officer Zektar reported, "the humans are broadcasting some kind of message. Should we block it?" Captain Morgan watched the 3 small figures on her screen. The human called Jake was just sitting quietly, staring out at space. He didn't look like a monster. He looked tired and worried, like someone trying to get home to his family. "Let the message through," she said. "I want to hear what he has to say." Zektar looked surprised. "Captain, Admiral Zorthek specifically ordered us to prevent any human communication." "Admiral Zorthek isn't here," Captain Morgan replied. "I am. Let me hear the message." Jake's voice filled the bridge of the alien ship. He spoke simply and honestly about his people, about their mistakes and their hopes. Captain Morgan listened to every word, and for the first time since this all began, she started to have doubts. Meanwhile, in Earth's solar system, Admiral Kate Reynolds was having the worst day of her career. She sat in the command center of Luna Base, staring at reports that didn't make sense. First, Jake Sullivan's mining ship had sent an emergency signal about alien contact. Then the signal had stopped completely. Now they were getting strange messages about invasion fleets and orbital bombardment. "Admiral," her communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from an unknown vessel approaching at high speed. The voice claims to be Jake Sullivan." "Put it through," Admiral Reynolds said. Jake's face appeared on the main screen. He looked terrible, with dark circles under his eyes and a desperate expression. Behind him, Admiral Reynolds could see two other people she didn't recognize, and what was clearly alien technology. "Admiral Reynolds, this is Jake Sullivan. I know, this sounds crazy, but Earth is in danger. A massive alien fleet is coming to destroy our planet. They think humans are too dangerous to be allowed to live." Admiral Reynolds leaned forward. "Jake, where are you? What happened to your ship?" "I'm in an alien shuttle with two other humans. We escaped from their research vessel. Admiral, you have to listen to me. These aliens have never seen a species like us. Everything about humans scares them. Our strength, our history, even the fact that we grow our own food. They think we're monsters." "How long do we have?" Admiral Reynolds asked. Nina's voice came from off-screen. "The hegemony fleet will arrive in 36 hours. It's a military force designed to contain dangerous species. They'll surround Earth and use orbital weapons to make the planet uninhabitable." The command center fell silent. Admiral Reynolds had spent her whole career preparing for possible alien contact, but nothing had prepared her for this. "What can we do?" she asked. "I don't know," Jake admitted. "Fighting them would just prove they were right about us. But maybe if we can show them what humans really are, they might listen." President Steve Martinez was in a meeting with his economic advisors when the call came through. Within minutes, he was in the Situation Room with Dr. Amy Foster from the Global Science Council and every military leader on Earth. "How many ships are we talking about?" President Martinez asked. "Our long-range scanners are picking up at least 50 vessels," Admiral Reynolds reported from Luna Base. "Some of them are bigger than anything we've ever built." General Rick Thompson, head of Earth's Space Defense Force, shook his head. "We have 12 combat ships and maybe 30 civilian vessels that could be armed. It's not even close to a fair fight." "Then we don't fight," Dr. Foster said. Everyone turned to look at her. "Think about it. If we meet them with weapons, we prove their point. But if we meet them with something else?" "With what?" President Martinez asked. "With who we really are," Dr. Foster replied. "Jake Sullivan said they're afraid of us because they don't understand us. So let's help them understand." Back in space, Jake's shuttle was starting to show signs of strain. Strange noises came from the engines, and several warning lights were flashing on the control panel. "This thing wasn't built for extended high-speed flight," Carl said. "We're pushing it too hard. Can you keep it together for another 16 hours? Nina asked. "I can try," Carl replied, "but I make no promises." Jake was staring out the window when he saw them. Tiny points of light in the distance, growing larger by the minute. The hegemony fleet had arrived early. "There," he pointed. "Do you see them?" Nina and Carl looked where he was pointing. Even at this distance, they could tell the alien ships were massive. Each one was easily 10 times the size of Earth's largest spacecraft. "Oh no," Nina whispered. "They're already here." The lead ship in the alien fleet was the dreadnought Cosmic Justice. Admiral Zorthek stood on its bridge, looking down at the small blue planet before him. His orders were clear: contain the human threat before it could spread to other worlds. "Admiral," his tactical officer reported, "we're detecting several human vessels approaching our position. They don't appear to be armed." "Of course they're armed," Admiral Zorthek said. "Humans are always armed. Prepare to fire warning shots if they come too close." "Sir, they're broadcasting on all frequencies. It appears to be music." Admiral Zorthek frowned. "Music? And art, poetry, scientific data, historical records. They're sending us information about their culture instead of military intelligence." This was not what Admiral Zorthek had expected. In his experience, dangerous species always responded to superior force with either surrender or aggression. They didn't send poetry. "Should we jam their transmissions?" the tactical officer asked. Admiral Zorthek watched the human ships maintaining their distance, broadcasting their strange cultural data. "Not yet," he said. "Let's see what they're trying to tell us." Jake's shuttle finally limped into Earth's solar system with its engines smoking and half its systems failing. But they had made it. Earth was still there, still blue and beautiful. And alive. "We did it," Carl said, slumping over the controls. "We actually made it. But Jake could see the alien fleet surrounding his homeworld like a deadly necklace. Dozens of massive ships, each one capable of destroying cities. Earth looked so small and fragile compared to the assembled firepower aimed at it. Now comes the hard part, he said. We have to convince them not to pull the trigger. Jake's stolen shuttle drifted toward the massive alien fleet with its engines dead and its hull cracked from the long journey. Through the damaged windscreen, he could see Earth hanging in space like a blue jewel, surrounded by dozens of alien warships. The engines are completely gone, Carl said, wiping grease from his hands. We're running on backup power only. Nina was frantically working at the communication console. I'm trying to boost our signal, but the fleet is jamming most frequencies. Admiral Zorthek watched from the bridge of his flagship as the small human craft approached. His orders were simple: eliminate the human threat before it could spread beyond this solar system. But the humans weren't acting like any dangerous species he had ever encountered. Admiral, his communications officer reported, the human governments are still broadcasting cultural information. No military data, no threats, no demands for surrender, just stories and music. And their ships? Admiral Zorthek asked. Maintaining distance with weapons powered down. They're not even trying to defend themselves. Admiral Zorthek frowned. This was not how dangerous species were supposed to behave. They should be fighting or fleeing, not sending poetry. Jake managed to get his shuttle's communication system working just as the alien fleet began moving into attack formation. This is Jake Sullivan to all ships, he broadcast. Please don't do this. You don't understand what humans really are. We understand perfectly. Admiral Zorthek's voice came through the speakers. You are a violent species that poses a threat to galactic peace. No, Jake said, looking out at his homeworld. We're a protective species. There's a difference. Captain Morgan, who had been following Jake's shuttle, suddenly broke formation and moved her ship between the dreadnought and Earth. Admiral, I request permission to speak. Captain Morgan, return to formation immediately, Admiral Zorthek ordered. With respect, Admiral, I've been studying these humans for weeks. I don't think they're what we believe them to be. They attacked you without provocation, Admiral Zorthek replied. No, sir, Captain Morgan said. Their automated systems activated when they detected my scanning beams. The human Jake Sullivan tried to explain and apologize. I was the one who refused to listen. On Earth, Admiral Reynolds watched the drama unfolding in space above her planet. All ships maintain position, she ordered. Do not power weapons under any circumstances. President Martinez was in the Situation Room, surrounded by advisors who wanted him to fight. Sir, we have to do something, General Thompson said. We can't just sit here and let them destroy us. Yes, we can, President Martinez replied. And we will. If we're going to die, we'll die as who we are, not as the monsters they think we are. Dr. Foster was coordinating the cultural broadcast from her laboratory. Music, art, literature, and scientific discoveries poured out from Earth's transmitters. Send everything, she told her team. Show them what humanity has created, not just what we've destroyed. Jake's shuttle was now close enough to the alien fleet that he could see individual ships clearly. Each one was a masterpiece of engineering, beautiful and terrible at the same time. But the biggest ship, the one in the center, was charging its main weapons. Admiral Zorthek, Jake said, before you fire, let me ask you something. What do you do when someone threatens your family? Humans don't have the right to speak of family, Admiral Zorthek replied. You train your young for warfare. We train them to protect each other, Jake said. We teach them to be strong so they can help those who are weak. We tell them stories about heroes who sacrifice themselves to save others. Nina had managed to patch into the fleet's communication network. Now Jake's words were being broadcast to every ship in the alien armada. You want to know what humans really are? Jake continued. We're the species that runs into burning buildings to save strangers. We're the people who give up our own food so our children can eat. We explore space not to conquer worlds, but to find new homes for our families. Carl was working frantically on the shuttle's engines. Jake, I might be able to get one more burst of power from these things. For what? Jake asked. To ram the big ship if they start firing. Jake stared at his friend. Carl, that's suicide. Maybe, Carl said with a grin. But it's also proof that humans will die to protect what they love. Admiral Zorthek was listening to the conversation, and something about it made him pause. These humans were talking about sacrificing themselves not to win a battle, but to make a point. What kind of species chose death over violence? Captain Morgan's voice came over the communication channel. Admiral, I'm sending you the complete recordings of my interactions with these humans. Please review them before you give the order to fire. Admiral Zorthek watched Jake's recorded message and the interrogation sessions. For the first time, he saw the confusion and pain in Jake's eyes when his honest answers were misunderstood. He saw the human trying desperately to explain his species' nature, while alien interrogators turned every peaceful trait into evidence of aggression. Sir, his tactical officer said, weapons are charged and ready. Admiral Zorthek looked at the small blue planet below. He had been sent here to destroy a species of monsters, but the beings he was watching didn't act like monsters. They acted like people who were scared and confused and trying to protect their home. Jake's shuttle suddenly burst forward with its last bit of power, heading straight for the dreadnought. But instead of trying to ram the massive ship, Jake flew alongside it, broadcasting one final message. My name is Jake Sullivan, he said. I'm not a soldier or a diplomat. I'm just a guy who fixes things and wants to go home to his family. If you have to kill someone to prove humans are dangerous, kill me. But please, let my people live. The shuttle's engines died completely, leaving it drifting helplessly next to the alien flagship. Jake sat in his pilot's seat, waiting for and Admiral Zorthek stared at the small human craft. The being inside had just offered his life to save his species. This was not the action of a monster. This was the action of a hero. Stand down, weapons, Admiral Zorthek ordered. Sir, his tactical officer asked. I said stand down. Send a message to the Galactic Council. We need to reconsider our assessment of the human species. Captain Morgan's voice came over the communication system. Admiral, what are your orders? Admiral Zorthek looked at Earth, still blue and beautiful and very much alive. We're going to try something that hasn't been done in this galaxy for a very long time. We're going to sit down and talk. Jake slumped in his seat as the alien weapons powered down. Through his cracked window, he could see Earth still turning peacefully in space. His home was safe. His people would live. We did it, Nina whispered. No, Jake said, watching as small shuttles began launching from the alien ships. We just got started. Now comes the hard part, proving that humans and aliens can be friends instead of enemies. Carl grinned as he watched the alien shuttles approaching. Well, we've got the rest of our lives to figure that out. For the first time in days, Jake smiled. The rest of their lives sounded like exactly enough time.